And welcome to another episode of The Watch. My name is Helen Herimbi. Thank you so much for joining us. We started this show basically to look out for each other during this coronavirus pandemic. And today we take a virtual trip to Kenya and to Botswana to see just how the virus has affected our brothers and sisters on the continent. We'll be speaking to Dr. Angela Gidua from Kenya, as well as to Kane Youngman, who is the Policy and Legal Advocacy Manager at Likhabibo. Let's get it started. I am hanging out with Kane Youngman from Botswana, as well as Dr. Angela Gidua. You're going to teach me how to say that surname from Kenya. And I think the most important question right now is, how are you doing? How are you actually doing? Dr. Angela?
I think we're okay, given everything that's going on. We are preparing for the worst, but really hoping for the best.
Yeah. Kane?
Couldn't have said it better. I'm good. I'm just eager, waiting for normality to return.
Yeah. So when both of you heard about this news of the coronavirus, did you feel confident that our continent is in a position to minimize the devastation that we'd seen in countries like Italy?
Well, when I saw the numbers from the developed world, I don't want to lie to you. I said to myself, my goodness, we are dead. We are so dead.
Wow.
Not like seriously. When I saw the numbers from the developed world, and I'm thinking, we are barely able to cope with the daily routine things. Like when you go to our emergency room here at the main hospital, it doesn't look like it's an emergency room. It looks like it's business as usual. The triage is not working. It's basically business as usual. So when you think about something as as big as this, you think about supermarkets, you think about exchanging money, you think about funerals, you think about weddings. When I heard about it, I was like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
That was the main reaction. That was my immediate reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So are you saying that you now have a different perspective now that there have been people who tested positive in Botswana?
Yes, now I have a different perspective in the sense that I have seen those huge numbers in other countries, and then people testing positive and people recovering, and then also seeing that for some reason the African continent seemed to have lower numbers of the virus. So that gave me hope. That I don't know why it is the case. I didn't bother to check, but all I said to myself was, okay, we just need to protect ourselves from whatever the instructions that the angels of this world are giving us. We need to take it as the gospel and not even think we are smart. Take it as it is and do it. The problem is we come down when we start to question things. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't know anything. If you are told, do this, if you're all you can ask is, why am I doing this? And then they explain to you, and then you listen. You don't question. You do it as it is. The problem is that we are too social, unlike the developed world. That's one of the reasons why I actually felt like we are dead, because in the region here, especially the Southern African, I'm not conversant about the Eastern or Western. We are so social. When something is happening at the neighbor's house, when there's a wedding, we don't need an invitation card. We go. There's 400, 500 of us there. So.
And in fact, there is a bride and groom here in South Africa who were recently arrested because they tried to have their wedding during the lockdown, and they had so many people there, and they were actually arrested. But I want to pick up then from what you said about we need to listen to the medical professionals, because Dr. Angela, as a GP, you're seeing this thing firsthand. When you first heard about this pandemic, were you confident in how we as Africans can handle it?
I think I was. Africa is a very special population in the terms that we've been dealing with Rift Valley fever, Ebola, So we're always on edge. We always know that we have an epidemic around the corner. So I think a lot of governments have been putting in a lot of money just to be able to catch those early, especially at border points. So I think in terms of like preparedness, we were a little bit more prepared than Europe and America because of what we've been dealing with. I know especially for Central Africa, West Africa, and East Africa, Ebola has always been very close to us. So we're always prepared. We've gotten a lot of funding as well from a lot of nations that have helped us to increase our capacities. So in terms of being prepared, we were a little bit because of what we've gone through in the past.
Yeah. And when you first started hearing about people testing positive in Botswana and in Kenya, did it change how you interact with people and how social you are personally?
Yeah,
Dr.
for me.
Angela?
Oh, sorry, Angela.
I mean, definitely. I think for us, we'd been monitoring the situation in China and in Italy. So when we had the first case, I think it was maybe on a Friday. By Monday, the schools were closed. So, I mean, things were taken into action very, very quickly. Social distancing was something that was discussed as soon as we had our first cases. So we were all, I guess, because of being aware and we're all in the news, we all knew if we had a first case what we were going to do. And I think people just from then on began to just do what the government and the doctors had said very, very early on. And I think that has helped a lot, especially in Kenya.
Kane, did you say, no, I'm going to have one more party before I stop being social? What did you do?
Of course, everyone said one more, the last one. Let's say goodbye.
Yeah.
If only I was a party animal, I would have done that definitely. It's just that for me, I'm a paranoid person.
Yeah.
And my paranoia always gets the best of me. It bullies me so much. It always wins. So when I heard about this, I was like, oh my God. So how many sanitizers do I have? How many Dettol, Savlons? How many disinfectants do I have? How many this and that? I started counting things. How many methylated spirit I can use to wipe off handles? So my mind started working overtime. My sister gave birth in the end of January this year. So I've been going almost every day to my mother's house where my sister is in confinement. So when they came out, I was like, okay, not going there anymore. I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk the young one getting this anymore. So it's like now the only way for me to see my nephew is through the phone, using WhatsApp video calls and everything. So, and also the fact that in Botswana, we have never really had outbreaks like your Ebola, all these kind of things. Most things that we deal with in Botswana is malaria and HIV. So we don't have this major public health scares. So to us, we were thinking like you are sitting skeptical in the corner, looking at everything, wondering, these guys are lying. So there can't be such. So you know how you're sitting in the corner because you've never experienced such thing. So skeptical, but at the same time, being Botswana, we get so scared easily about things that might hurt us. So the moment they announced the lockdown, that's when actually reality hit home that, okay, this is actually serious. Yeah, so that's when the reality set in for most of the community. Before that, people were just business as usual. We're just walking in and out of the supermarkets and all those things. I was shocked. The supermarket next to my house where I usually do my grocery, I get there and you are told to queue outside, keep your distance, and then before you walk in, they wipe off your trolley, they sanitize your hands, and I'm thinking, okay, this is actually serious.
It is. So speaking of lockdown, here in South Africa, we're in our second week, and we've got one more week to go because our lockdown is 21 days. Dr. Angela, how many days of lockdown are you in so far, and how long is yours meant to last?
Oh, we're not in a lockdown, actually.
No.
Wow.
How?
We're not. So we have what is called restricted movement. So we have a national curfew. So that means that you can be out between 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. And after that, you have to be in your usual residence. We do have what we call a restriction of movement between counties. So basically, our country is divided into 47 counties, and each is run by their own county government. So we have about 4 counties that have a high number of cases, higher than other counties. So in those 4 counties, and Nairobi being the capital city, there's restricted movement in and out of Nairobi. But other than that, you can go to work, especially for essential services. So we're talking about food, transport, medical care, banking and finance. So those are still activities that are going on. We're not in a lockdown, but we do have restricted movements in and out of the affected counties, at least for 21 days, which was effective on Monday. So we're looking at 3 days more, say.
That is amazing. I was convinced everyone on the continent is in a lockdown.
No, we're not in a lockdown. So we still have our supermarkets open. You can still go to the market. So what we do have now is everyone is required to wear a mask, a cloth mask, just because there's some areas in which social distancing is not as adhered to as you would like it to be, especially in the market. But yeah we're still moving about from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah. What are some of the restrictions in Botswana, Kane?
Well, at the moment, all restaurants have been closed.
As well.
So you can't even do deliveries and all those things. All the other workplaces, only essential services places are open, like your supermarkets and everything. You need to get a permit to walk about, to do 1, 2, 3. And for you to do 1, 2, 3, you need to convince somebody issuing the permit that this is what I want to do. They can say no.
Yeah.
So our lockdown started on the 2nd of April. It's going to end the 30th of April. So I decided not to count, because otherwise I'll go crazy. I mean, I like being home. I like spending time in my house.
Yeah.
But the moment somebody tells me don't leave your house, I'm thinking, okay, now it starts to play in my head. But on my own, I can confine myself in the house for a month or 2. Yeah. So the restriction, that's the problem with the restriction. It's getting to people mentally, not because they are necessarily itching to go out, but because they've been told to stay indoors.
Yeah. It's bigger than just a physical thing. And you know what I've been noticing is that although we are being told to stay home, people are finding interesting ways to still connect and still be together, even though they are apart. And here in South Africa, we've tried to do this thing where at 7 p.m., people step outside of their doors or out of their windows and just like cheer or like scream or like play the vuvuzela, just as a thank you to all the medical professionals, the first responders, and everyone who's an essential service provider for actually being out when, we're not able to be. So I'm interested in your respective countries. Are there any things that are bringing people closer together, even though we can't actually be together?
Yes, complaining. Well, that's what we do on social media. We complain a lot about the lockdown.
Yeah.
So, you're influencing each other. People are complaining, oh, this lockdown is doing this to me, and you're complaining, you're saying this, oh, it's doing that to you. But in more serious terms, but the way I think social media has made our lives easy, because we are able to see each other. We are able to have, I didn't even know that you could do a group call on WhatsApp. So I didn't even know you could do group calls on certain things. I got to learn those during the lockdown. Desperate times. So, exactly. I got to learn a lot of things during lockdown because it's things we are not expecting. So we are trying to console or comfort each other to say, okay, you have to hang tough. The lockdown is very sad in the sense that right now at Lekhabibo, we have lost 2 of our members. We have lost our board treasurer. We have not been able to go and bury. We have lost one of our community members who have committed suicide. We have not been able to go and bury. And then there are other issues of domestic violence where people are being abused based on their sexuality and all those things. And we are not necessarily able to help because of the lockdown.
Yeah.
So trying to use social media to try and help each other through social media. That's how we try and keep each other motivated and keep each other going.
Yeah. And as Likhabibo, have you guys tried to get a permit to be able to physically help people who are in these situations?
Yes, we've had a permit before that is about, because we're providing access to health services like your testing and then getting your PrEPs, getting your ARTs and all those things. So in order to make sure that adherence keeps on going, in order to make sure that people actually adhere to their medication, we had to go and apply for a permit to make sure that our team goes and collects people from their respective homes and takes them to their doctor's appointments so that they are able to stick to the routine and they're able to stick to the medication or whatever the case may be. Because we didn't want to have to, once we are done dealing with corona, and then now we basically 100 steps back with other ailments.
Yeah.
So we felt that it was important for us to get that permit to ensure that people's health are not being put in jeopardy.
Okay, for sure. Dr. Angela, I especially want to hear your opinion, but Kane, you can also come in about when these French doctors were saying that they want to come and test the coronavirus vaccine on Africans. I know, Kane, I know, but let's hear from the medical professional. What did you think when you saw that?
This is something that I've had over and over again over the years. Whatever, especially for us, when we have these outbreaks of viruses, Ebola, we're always guinea pigs. This is not the first time that somebody has suggested testing the vaccine on us. Sometimes we have had to use a vaccine in cases where we're the only ones who are being affected, and we're the only ones who can more so benefit from it. So I think having that same train of thought it was disrespectful.
Yeah.
Was and I think I mean I wouldn't pay too much attention to it, because I also feel like when you look at the opinions, it's opinions of very few scientists who might want to think that African life is disposable or is something that we can play around with. I think it was wrong for them to suggest, and I think Obama, from everyone from Obama to a lot of other medical doctors to the DG of WHO who said no. So I think that was two people that I think we should not give any attention to.
Yeah, I hear you. Kane, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking in a lot of different medications. So I usually say to people, I'm not ready to start taking high blood pressure medications, because it's stuff like that gets you off the roof. I'm there thinking, logic suggests that where you have the worst case, that is where you do your test. That's just because you are bound to have different strains of different things there. So that's where you explore things. So Angela rightfully said, basically, we're just guinea pigs. We're disposable basically to them. And that infuriated me even more. But in the end, like what she said, in the end, when I realized that, it's not anybody of greater importance. It's not like a president somewhere. It's not WHO somewhere. It's not people who have larger influence, basically. So that's how I was able to deal with it. Before that, I was,
I hear you. I think one of the things that this virus presents to us on a positive side is that we have an opportunity to create a new normal and to not go back to things the way they used to be. But what worries me a little bit is, I mean, in South Africa, we are one of the most unequal societies in the world, where a certain race seems to be able to social distance because everyone has a big house in the suburbs. And then Black people are literally living on top of each other. So how do they social distance then? And, I don't know if you saw, but there are some construction workers, obviously Black, who have also been arrested for being out and working. But those people are thinking about they need to make money during this lockdown. They've got bills to pay. And their employer, who is likely not Black, is not being arrested. So those things are a bit problematic for us. But I'm wondering if you guys are facing similar challenges in Botswana and in Kenya.
Well, for us in Kenya, I think our government has been very cognizant of the fact that we have a big majority of our populace is really living hand to mouth, depending on daily wages, and that is why we do not have a complete lockdown. So we still have people going to construction sites. We still have people who are doing our Jua Kali mechanical industry. They're still trying to work, and that's why we're saying, okay, fine, let's do cloth masks. But I think for us, the flip side of that is now, of course, an increase in crime, unrest, and lawlessness. So I think the government has tried as much as possible to resist a complete lockdown because of that reason, that we do have a majority of our populace who earn daily wages.
Yeah. Kane?
So in Botswana, the government has started a relief fund. The government on its own put in 2 billion pula, and then other private institutions are starting to donate or put in more, like your DBS put in 20 million pula and all those things. So different establishments are trying to help the government help people. So in the press conference that was held a couple of days ago, there were different ministers and different parties trying to address such issues, to say we have individuals, we have people who are driving taxis, like yours. We have people who are selling at the markets. We have people who are doing this and that. We have waiters who are working at the restaurants and all those things. So how are we going to make sure that they are assisted? Because for them to get food on the table, they need to work that day.
Yeah.
So they do remote working, like some of us, where you can take your computer and go home and then do work. So how then do we assist them? So that is what the government has been trying to do. They have decided that they are going to assist, but it's the nitty-gritties that they are still trying to iron out with different parties, different stakeholders who are trying to help the government understand exactly how to go about it.
Yeah. Okay. Before I let you go, one of the things that I'm really missing in this lockdown is this prawn pasta from a restaurant called Mythos. And we can't have it because the restaurants are closed. So the first thing I'm going to do when we are back to some kind of normalcy is go and get that pasta. What is the first thing that you are going to do when we are finally out of this pandemic? Okay.
Well, for me, the first thing I'm going to do is go and see my husband in Germany. So he can't come here because he won't be allowed in. I can't go there because I won't be allowed in.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do when the lockdown is over.
Oh, that's a more sensible thing than my pasta. So, Dr. Angela, what's the first thing you're gonna do?
Well, fortunately for us, our restaurants are still open. They just deliver, so you can basically get almost anything that you want. So that's. But I think I'm going to see my parents. I really, really miss my mom and my dad, and I think it's just not being able to see them because you think you might be a risk factor for them, and it's sort of like an act of compassion, but it's still very painful to do. So I think that's what I'll do.
Yeah. Well, I hope we certainly are able to do those things sooner rather than later. But thank you so much for your time and for being patient with our technology. I really appreciate your time and I hope to speak to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you for having us. And Angela, all the best and thank you for your services.
All right. Thank you so much. It was nice to meet both of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
As you heard, there is so much more that is uniting us as Africans than what actually separates us. So I want to say thank you very, very much to Kane Youngman in Botswana, as well as to Dr. Angela Gidua in Kenya for looking out for us today on The Watch. My name is Helen Herimbi, and I will definitely see you tomorrow.